Good morning, welcome back, welcome to this journey across the globe. We're here in Dili in East Timor, and last week saw us travel through the Australian outback from 1921 to 1993 as we witnessed a ghost boy. We saw two cowboy brothers try to make it rich, and rather poignantly, as we departed the coast of Australia ourselves, we watched a movie about a family of displaced peoples after World War II on their way to Australia. We then travelled through Indonesia into 1954 with After the Curfew, ending the week where we are now in Dili, the capital city of East Timor. And in fact, did you know that this only became a capital city in 2002, which makes it one of the newest capital cities in the world. Now, before we set off for the day, there's there's quite a large landmark that I'd like to take a look at. The Cristo Rei de Dili is a 27 metre tall statue, the big man's little man, Jesus Christ. I remember in school I had to sing a song, well, not just me, the whole school had to sing the song, not just me, about how Jesus had the whole wide world in his hands. But if you look at this statue very closely, you may miss it otherwise, he's actually standing on top. The whole world is beneath his feet, which to me is a very different meaning. So, a quick recap, a quick look at the leaderboard for the start of the week. We have Indonesia in first place with 3.03, and we have Australia in second place with 2.115. And also, my movie of the planet down here is Australia's Robbery Under Arms. But let's see, this is how it stands currently, how it's going to look at the end of the week. And so despite the wonderful mountain to beach views of Dili and East Timor, we do need to continue our journey forwards. There's a lot of the globe left to go and a lot more movies to watch. So let's get to our first East Timorese movie.
Beatrice's young husband disappears during the brutal Kraras massacre by occupying Indonesian forces. 16 years later, she's troubled by his return. Is this mysterious stranger her husband, an imposter, or a spirit?
I really wish I was able to get a better quality version of this film. It's got two quite distinct halves, the first contextualizing the second with the struggles between Indonesia and East Timor and the general horrors of war. The mystery is he isn't he of the second half was really well done and landed a good through line to keep the pace going. 3 out of 5 stars. Good start, yes. It's good to be back.
The first movie of the week. There's not a huge pool to pick from in East Timor. Obviously, being in the capital city, I got to choose the movie this week. Unfortunately, I could only find quite a very low quality copy of this movie. But regardless, it still was very enjoyable. I liked the experience. I thought it was really good and super interesting, exploring the themes of the tensions between Indonesia and East Timor from, not that long ago. Quite similar in theme to After the Curfew, the film we watched from Indonesia that we ended last week on. And I really would love to recommend this film, and I do, just with the sort of stipulation that maybe only if you can find a better quality version to watch than the one I did, because it is unfortunately quite a detractor to the overall experience. Now, I've got to start making some decisions about where I'm going and the route I'm going to sort of chase. There's quite a few micro-island nations in the area, and I want to be very careful not to miss any, obviously, but also not to waste any movement. So I want to be as strategic as possible, but that might get a little bit difficult, as I've mentioned before. So today, this film has given me the extra 100 kilometers boost for being all in the local language, or primarily in the local language. And additionally, I get the 150 kilometers boost on top of that for having spent the night in a capital city, the little capital city boost. I'm going to start making my way across to Papua New Guinea, which is a few days away still, but I'm going to make sure that I'm trying to land at land masses as much as possible, as I don't want to be stung with too many of the days at sea penalty, because every day that I finish and land at sea, I lose 150 kilometers once I then next land at land. I said land a lot then. I hope you understand what I mean, because I'm not going to ever explain it again. Welcome to Samlaki, Indonesia. It's a bit of a part-way point across to the section of Indonesia that takes me directly into Papua New Guinea, and I thought it would just be a nice place to stop in, even though it's an under-budget move, because, as I said, I want to land at land masses and not spend too much time at sea. And I thought, what better place to go than the largest town in the Tanimbar group of islands, which, due to its Dutch history and Dutch influence, it's still quite Protestant, so that means that churches are pretty central to village life here, which is just kind of interesting. Still just keep thinking about that Jesus statue, you know, standing on the world under his feet. We're back in Indonesia, so we're going to see what Indonesian cinema has on offer for us tomorrow.
The stabilizer searches for drug smuggler Greg Rainmaker, who killed Goldson's fiancée by kicking her with his spiked shoe. And now Goldson wants revenge.
There is a dirty job to be done. And the man to do it is Peter Goldson.
So cheesy and bad, I almost had a good time, but not really. Maybe another time it'll land better. The helicopter exploding cracked me up now. Oh my, 1 star.
Despite the population size role modifier restrictions, I've really struggled to find Indonesian movies pre-1980s available to watch. So I had to roll forwards into the 1980s for this film, The Stabilizer, which was definitely not my favourite movie. This one won't be going as my movie of the world. I just didn't find this movie very enjoyable. There's some bonkers action that was like almost fun, but I found it sort of overstayed its welcome pretty quickly, and to be honest, some of the fight choreo genuinely felt like a parody. It's not that I can't get into a silly bonkers action movie, it's more that I couldn't get into this one. It really, to me, just felt all cheese, no charm. It had all the cheesiness, but not the charm that makes it enjoyably cheesy, just kind of exhaustingly cheesy. Saying cheese a lot. Like a little rat, man. I want some cheese, please. Fact, Indonesia, and I feel like I've not planned my route very well, I'm realising. Unfortunately, the distance between land masses, between islands, between places to stay is making it very difficult to make proper lateral movement. But I have made it to the Papua Island, which has Papua New Guinea on it, so hopefully going to get there by the end of the week, but I've really stitched myself up here. Next stop, I think I might head north for Palau, or just keep heading around the island. For now, another oldie film on the horizon.
When Ghostlyface, a good guy who wears a monster mask, kills a woman's father and steals his sword, she sets off for revenge. She is unaware that Ghostlyface isn't the killer, but has been set up by a band of pirates.
The mask is unsettling. People jump a lot, really high. It's an alright kung fu movie, but it lacks a bit of a punch, lol. But really, the choreo is pretty good, but feels a bit samey after a bit, and the plot is super basic. The poster kicks ass, The English dub, the only version I could find, sadly, was not it. 1 star out of 5.
I'm starting to think these old Indonesian fighty kung fu movies maybe just aren't for me. You know, there's a lot of action, but it all just felt a bit meh. You know, sort of like a Kit Kat with the chocolate removed, and the biscuit also tastes like shit. I was also pretty sad I could only find the English dub for this movie, which was fucking terrible. Like, real bad. Look at that mask though. That's fucked up. If that was like lit differently and that was put in a horror movie, that would be fucking terrifying, dude. I don't want this guy hunting my family down. What the hell? I was sort of hoping that there was going to be a canal or something through the middle of West Papua and I could cut this section off, but alas, I must go up and over around the top, so I'm going to spend the night today in Wybeam. The villages on this island are quite small and their population is also quite small, which means I fear that I'm locking myself into more old, bad Indonesian fight movies. Maybe I'll find one I like. Maybe. So I reckon I'm still a couple of days away from crossing into Papua New Guinea and making some more progress on this trip. And hopefully Indonesian cinema turns a bit of a corner for me in that time, because I think I'm going to start to lose my mind. I mean, more like after the curfew, less like the last 2 days, would be grand.
A nurse begins working at a retirement home, and soon after, the residents start turning up dead.
Sekarang Pak Siman sedang ada di gudang menurunkan bahan makanan.
A bit of a bonkers whodunit slasher romp with a bunch of eccentric old folks in a forgotten retirement home. It's just genuinely quite enjoyable with a great cast of characters. Drags a bit in the last third, but still a fun watch. 3.5 out of 5.
Thank God this movie came along. And honestly, thank that statue of Jesus that I didn't end my journey through Indonesia on those last 2 movies, because this one, though still pretty bonkers and over-the-top action, lands on the fun, charming side of cheesy. It's a really fun time. If you like the sound of the synopsis and the look of the clip, check it out. Honestly, I had so much fun watching this movie. My second only 3.5 of the whole trip. So movie of the week contender and tied with top movie of the planet so far. Do you think this guy kind of looks like Shia LaBeouf a bit? Kind of thought that. Kind of looks like Shia LaBeouf, right? So we're continuing the run along the coast to the east now. We're just a day shy of Papua New Guinea, but today we've made it to the town of Sami. So the name of this town, Sami, is actually an acronym for the 5 major tribes in the area. You have Sobi, Armati, Rumbuai, Manarem, and Isiwara, which, I mean, that's just quite a cool naming convention, I think. And with likely only one more Indonesian film on the horizon for now, I'm hoping it's more of a repeat of today and not so much the last couple of days.
Gambling Kosim tries to hang himself, but is saved by an old man, who then recommends he go visit a cave-dwelling hermit who knows black magic. There, Kosim learns his magic spell to transform himself into a pig, As a requirement, he has to sacrifice one of his children, and he's not allowed to hear prayer nor see monkeys. He uses his new power to steal money until he's caught, shot, and decapitated. But his head lives on.
Men will do anything but go to therapy. I'm sort of in awe of how insane the plot idea for this movie is. The weirdly heroic music playing while he's about to hang himself, the screaming fish, the completely random exorcism scene with an unrelated character. I was so entertained, just watching this movie with a permanent and utterly perplexed expression. If you don't watch 70s Indonesian movies about a magic pig performing low-stakes petty thefts against grannies, do you really watch movies? 3 out of 5.
This fucking movie, honestly, I don't know if it's good or if it's just so hilariously eccentric that I just had such a good time with it. And I don't even know if I had a good time with it. It's so weird. I mean, the main character, there's no character growth. He's just unapologetically a piece of shit and gambles things that he steals from people right back to those people and never gets away with it. And the exorcism scene, I have no idea what this has to do with the rest of the movie, who these characters are and their relation or relevance to the rest of the movie. It just sort of happens and the actress just goes full tilt, and it's kind of inspiring, but it's very confusing. And the fish. It's unsettling, it's weird, and I don't like it. Why does he turn into a pig only to climb into a crate to replace another pig that is quite clearly being carried to slaughter? I don't know. Why can't he hear prayer or see monkeys? Well, spoiler alert, he does in the movie. And you would assume, or I assumed, that he would be stuck as the pig or it would break the spell in some way. But no, shortly after this happens, he's shot by a hunter, which is, I suppose you could make the argument that that happened because of him hearing prayer and seeing monkeys, but I feel like a hunter shooting a pig is not that absurd of a thing. So why is that built up to be such a thing when that's just a normal thing that would happen? The guy didn't know he was a Nyepet, he was hunting a pig. In fact, he so didn't know that it was a Nyepet that he hangs the head of this pig on his wall because he doesn't know that it's a guy. Anyway, it's a bit of a weird one. I afterwards looked up the Indonesian mythology called the Nyepet, which is what this movie is based on. It's the folklore, essentially, of people that can turn into magic pigs that steal from villages, which is a very weird way to find out about that, but super cool and kind of part of what this trip is about, just being exposed to things I have never heard about, and I've certainly never heard about that. This movie is definitely going to stick with me for a little while. Not that it was fantastic by any stretch of the means, but it was weird enough to be lodged in my brain. So maybe check it out. This movie has undoubtedly left me with a bit to process as I look back at my time with Indonesian cinema and the mixed bag that I had there. But now I'm heading into Papua New Guinea, which means a new batch, a pool of films to pull from and to watch, which is pretty exciting. So my first stop here in Papua New Guinea is called Wewak. It's on the coast, and interestingly, it was part of German New Guinea, something I didn't even know existed, which was New Guinea before it was influenced by the Australians in World War One. And later in World War Two, it became quite a major Japanese base, one of their last strongholds in the Pacific. So as you can imagine, it was bombed quite heavily, especially in the later years of the war. And this reminder can be found in bunkers and aircraft wrecks dotted around villages and in the jungles, as a sort of quiet and poignant reminder of the effects of this global war on all regions of the world. So that was a little bit of a tone shift from the movie we watched, wasn't it? Well, I'm going to find a spot on this beach to curl up and fall asleep to the sound of the waves crashing as I look forward to tomorrow and our beginnings of our trip into Papua New Guinea's cinema history.
his complicated relationship with the Kaniga people in the Papua New Guinea highlands.
It's a pretty compelling and interesting look at the crossing over of tradition and modernity, primarily the arrival of capitalism and the greed of money in such a system. It follows a through line of Joe and his interactions with the Ghana people, as well as his own mixed heritage, which provides a brilliant vehicle to explore some wider concepts, though never fully delves into them. An interesting watch, though the storyline is ultimately fairly unresolved, you're left wanting to know more about the motivations and feelings of certain characters. 3.5.
A very strong start for Papua New Guinea, a second 3.5 rating for the week, which I'm really happy that's so relatively early into the trip. I'm finding a lot of movies that I'm enjoying, I'm enjoying quite a bit, and this one is quite an easy recommendation for me to give if you like documentaries, and if the premise sounds at all interesting, it is quite good. Give it a watch. The creators are Australian, so I'm losing 100 kilometers there, but being primarily in the local language, I'm gaining 100 back, so I'm essentially just at my flat budget of 600 kilometers today. So I'm still travelling along the coastline at the moment, and at the very upper maximum stretch of my daily budget today, I can just about make it to Gagadoo, a village in the district of Finchhaven, and just a few kilometers shy, so meaning it would be just a few kilometres over budget, of the town of Finchhaven itself. Around the bend of the northern coast of Papua New Guinea now, which is pretty exciting, but it is kind of making me realise how long it's going to take to get through essentially all of Oceania. But that's what I'm here for, baby.
Around two characters, Wayak and Pua. Wayak is a warrior who guards the frontier between land of his tribe and that of the neighbouring tribe. Pua is a young boy whom Gardner depicts as weak and inept. What is this synopsis?
The last movie of the week, the documentary Dead Birds, and I was quite amazed by the access that small crew documentaries can give to lesser known, lesser contacted, or just lesser understood parts of the world, and this is no exception. And the narrator, I really just didn't like the narrator. His voice was annoying to me, but also just the style they used, giving you the inner workings, thoughts, desires and feelings of a person's mind through a narrator that's totally disconnected. I'd much rather, and I always much rather, when documentaries weave in the actual people talking about themselves. So unfortunately no language bonus today, and I'm also losing 100 kilometers from the director-writer negative status effect, which is going to sting a little bit today. But I've made it to the locality of Maskikilir. So it's a very small hamlet and it's very remote, but it continues to boast that lovely, lush, tropical jungle environment that we've come to see and enjoy on our journeys through Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. And this is where the week ends. I'll need to make a decision whether to continue my plan south or to start to zigzag through the island nations and collect them all up along the way. But first, let's take a look at the leaderboard. 3 countries watched this week with an average rating of 2.5, which beats last week's 1.9 ratings. We're in an upward trend and hopefully that will continue. But let's break it down, starting with the country we started in, East Timor. Now, only one film watched from there so far, which I do want to rectify in the future, which may mean a little bit of a detour. With a rating of 3.03, which means Australia will drop to third, and East Timor will take tied first place with Indonesia. But 4 more Indonesian films watched this week, we need to adjust this score, and it was a bit of a mixed bag, so let's see how that affects their overall rating. And so they end with a rating of 2.185, so they stayed just ahead of Australia, but do drop to second place. And so lastly, of course, we have Papua New Guinea, where we watched 2 films from, which, with a very strong start, I'm sure they're getting a bit nervous at the top of the rankings here. So they end with 3.06. So they are going to take first place, but it's neck and neck, only 0.03 in it for that top position. I expect this to change a lot more as things settle in, and especially after I watch a couple more films from East Timor. But that is where we land at the end of week 2, and this is the current leaderboard. But of course, there is another accolade, another thing to hand out. Will Robbery Under Arms still be my movie of the planet? What will be the movie of the week? So purely rating-wise, my movie of the week is a tie between Crazy Desire and Joe Lay's Neighbours. Quite different movies, a documentary and a drama, and I think I'm going to give it to Crazy Desire this week. I just found it a bit more engaging, a little bit more entertaining, and a little bit more memorable. So this is going to go as my movie of the week, but it's also going to take the spot of movie of the planet. So it's going to dethrone Robbery Under Arms. Not to devalue Robbery Under Arms, it's still got its 3.5 rating. It's still joint top rating for the overall leaderboard at the moment. But I think I've got to give it to Crazy Desire. I do expect eventually there to be a crossover where there is a movie of the week that is different to the movie of the planet as we get deeper into the list. But this early on, it's expected it's going to move around a bit. And that's how we finish it. And that's the end of week 2. I hope you had a good time. I hope maybe you found a couple of films you might want to check out. If not, maybe next time. Join me again next week. We've made some very good progress, and I think we'll continue to into next week. And I'll see you then. Goodbye.